Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming back to yet another episode of Gloving Table Talks, where I am your host, Steamboy, and my other co-hosts, Steamboy number 2, and Steamboy number 3, and Steamboy number new. But yes, we pretty much have a good cast going on here. We have Steamboy, of course, myself, Dubuque. We also got StarStream, and we also have Vioh, who technically this is your debut appearance on Table Talks, isn't it?
Yes, this is my first Table Talks. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Yes. Mostly just because we have a lot of things on the docket, and I also wanted to make sure that I brought Vioh on because one of the things I do want to cover in this episode is some of the ideas that I've had for next year. As you guys can probably tell, this is the end of the year kind of roundup type deal. We had a lot of things happen this year for gloving. I mean, we have new gloving technology, we have upcoming comps, a lot of new movements going on within the community, so we're just going to go ahead and cover them all as much as we can. I think the first thing that we want to cover, because I know Josh really wants to get into this, is the new gloving technology. So
I gotta single me out. Everyone wants to talk about it.
Well, it's because I will certainly say when it comes to gloving tech reviews, you spur the community the most. Like, you get the most activity from the community when you put out your videos on those. And it's because I think you curate your content probably better than I could. I mean, I don't...
No bad words about yourself here.
Well, no, I mean, I if I remember correctly, the last product review... Yeah, the last product review I think was the Vortexes. And I was just talking about the new design space that they actually put out with it, you know. I don't know, which one would you want to talk first? Because we got two major chips that we can talk about.
I mean, we can talk about, if anything, the synergies first, just because I've had a little bit more time with them. But I want to just kind of do that a little bit quickly, because because I know that Vioh, you also have duos, and I know McKinnley does too. And I think that there are some things about that I really want to talk about, if anything. And Peter, like, I know you're still waiting for a chance to grab your set, so if you want, I'm sure you can ask us questions and we can like answer them for you, because I feel like many people also have the same questions, you know.
Yeah, I will certainly say for me, I just feel like in a weird way that I was unintentionally duped when the last time I bought a gloving product, which were the Auroras. I bought them a month before he came out with the new rechargeable versions for the same price. If I knew that he was coming out with it, I would have waited and then bought those, because then I would have actually had my first foray into rechargeable chips, which
right.
I think that's probably the big kickoff for a lot of the gloving tech that we have going on right now. I think the biggest defining thing that we have moving forward right now is rechargeable chips.
Definitely.
So, and to tease everyone else, y'all don't have these. Here's the big teaser. Here's the biggest teaser you've ever had, and you will have for a while. But boom, they're right there.
What
are they? They are lights of sorts.
I want them.
They're lights of sorts.
You want to know what these are? These are light emitting diodes.
and these were beta teals. That's a hint.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Is there any chance that we can get a peek, like right outside the glove? Just give us a little.
I can do this.
Double beta set right now.
Oh, it's on.
Damn.
Oh. It's on.
That
but
premium
my lights
color.
out here are on, and like this is a computer. And yeah, but they're on.
It's still getting me sweaty.
I certainly hope to see an anonymous post from you using those, and just don't even tell anybody what they are, and just let people like, those are sick.
I need to go back and look. There already are a few, and not just from me.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Nice.
There already are.
There are things out in the wild, people. We must go find them. It's an Easter egg hunt. But I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think is like the biggest change for gloving technology besides just rechargeable batteries? I think that's just a natural progression of what we needed.
So one thing I thought was kind of interesting between the two chips that I've seen is how we're starting to see kind of a little bit of a split where we have individual mode swaps, and then now we have kind of this diversion of other chips that are single click mode swaps across all of them. And so one thing I noticed that for myself that I thought was kind of interesting is the pattern differences between having all 5 of your chips synced versus having them not necessarily perfectly synced. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm curious to see how that kind of starts to play with Trails, having that kind of technology, being able to swap modes like that and keeping your lights all synced together. I think that's a real big impact.
I haven't really thought about that personally, but now that you've mentioned it, it kind of does bring up something in like the back of my mind that I've noticed. Like when we first got the vortexes, right? You know, having that second diode, I know that something that was a criticism was the fact that the top diode was a little too close to the front diode, right? And like you would see kind of that mixing trail a little bit, right? That being said, I don't really know if I feel the same way anymore, actually, because with the synergies, the top diode is kind of moved far to the end of the chip, right? So there's like a clear separation. One thing I've noticed about the duos, actually, and this is especially true for sets that I've made through the randomizer, is that the randomized patterns find ways to complement the two diodes. So they'll mix the two diodes together to create these crazy trails. And I think in that way, like, I'm really curious to see, like, in the future with like future lights, like in combination with the placement and like either synchronized or off timings, right? How it's gonna affect like patterns.
Coming as a conjurer, something I've already noticed is me wearing them on bottom. I'm now caring a lot less about what's on top, so it's almost unnecessary for me. And also, like, even though I can turn them off, even when I tried messing with it, the manual programming at least, I would make a set and things would like blend. So probably the randomizer puts things in a better sequence or some sort. I don't know, it just knows. Because the stuff that I was trying to make, it was the white on top would mess whatever white I had on bottom. It would reveal, like, it would have like a, let's say it was like green. That white would make that green look like red, blue, yellow or some shit. When I'd move. Because it would show the revealing fake color code that it's using to make the color. Because they were so close. And I used to and kind of like what Josh was saying with the synergy, the vortexes, I felt the same way at first until me and Peter modified our casing. And now I get compliments on them all the time, and I feel like I love the separation. People are like, man, what are those?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even the duo videos that I've seen out recently, I think one that Jetplane put out with Thor using them, they really stand out on the duos now, and so
yeah.
Especially since those were blackout casings, right? So like
that's true. There were blackout casings.
Those look
so that
nice.
separation, like, it's like a really sharp contrast between the two lights. It's a really neat effect.
Yeah. These are just making new glovers overall, though. Each new technology, that's a new kind of glover.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I know for like Vioh, you seem to love the duos. Like you seem to be having like a fantastic time with it. Would you say that's like an accurate like assumption to make?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, overall, I've absolutely loved them. They've definitely turned into my daily driver. The biggest plus, obviously, is just the rechargeableness of it. But as far as the randomizer, watching Jest's stream when he was when they were releasing the chips, they talked about the randomizer and how it's supposed to not only randomize, obviously randomly, but it's through like color theory, and then they also have like I want to say flashing pattern matching or something along those lines. They have some different stuff going on other than just random colors, and it definitely the randomizer is just so much fun to play with, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that, that like the use of that seed, right? Like taking into like the account like the color and the pattern of that current mode. That is actually what changed my entire opinion about the duos. Because I was telling this to Mac the other day, and when we were on call, that the first couple of hours I had the duos, I wasn't as impressed. Like I was like, these are cool, but they're probably not gonna be for me. Like I have the synergies, like I like this is my thing. But then I really start playing with it, and with that randomizer, I finally understood its place within my kit, right? Where I'm like, the synergies I'm definitely gonna use if I'm like trying to make modes from scratch, right? Like if I'm crafting modes. But the fun for the duos for me was like the discovery of modes. Like what combination am I gonna put in there? What am I gonna get out of it, right? Yeah, it's been a lot of fun playing with those for real. Oh, but that's also the thing, right? Like I feel like the people who I've seen online get whatever set they get, it kind of like complements like their personalities, right? Like I see like Vioh and I see like Zan Smart like really playing with their sets and creating these gorgeous sets, and I see people like Quentin, aka Quantum, like talk about the synergies, and you can tell like he has like such a passion for that set, and like it's really interesting just to see like the way people will like interact with like their respective ecosystems, right? Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think I really think that the vortexes really shifted everything in terms of programming theory paradigms. Just because of how they had things set up, it opened the door to the ideas that people can have when it comes to multi-diode chips, and programming theory, in my opinion, has completely just been like all the stuff that I put out before about programming theory. We can pretty much just throw out the window now because it's outdated. It's pretty much obsolescent right now.
Oh yeah, I mean,
or obsolete. That's the word I was looking for.
No, absolutely. Like
what about obsolete? I think it's just a method.
It's obsoleted.
Absolutely.
It's one method.
Okay, so like, let me put it to you in a kind of perspective. Like, so when it comes to programming theory, like there was color and flash pattern and figuring out like complementary colors and triadic colors and quadratic colors and stuff like that. Now, since there are two diodes, you have a completely different idea that you have to approach now, because now you are working with two different ones. You have to figure out how these two diodes complement each other or contrast with each other. And not only that, you have to figure out which flashing patterns will actually work really well with each other and which ones actually clash with each other. And that's one of the big things that even with me just using the vortexes was a huge, like, a giant precipice was just opened up to me in terms of that, because there's just so much more variables that we have to take into account for that a lot of people are starting to kind of figure things out. Like Josh said, Zan Smart has really come along with his configurations, but he's also trying to figure out which flash patterns really complement each other and not let one of them overtake the other. Because that was one of the things I started noticing with vortexes, is that one of my flash patterns would actually overtake the other.
Yeah, I feel like it's
At least we still have uniforms. That's a base foundation that we have from the old programming ways. Uniforms, as in like the structure of, all right, the thumbs are different. These are all the same, or all of these are the same, or middles are trait, that kind of thing.
True.
You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the balancing act that I found with the duos, because the thing is, like, those patterns I talk about where like on the duos, like if you can find those colors and patterns that really mesh together, you get some crazy trails. And I would argue, like, because I've tried to recreate some of those on my synergies, and the effect is not the same. It's a cool effect, but I feel like with the synergies, it's much better to use stuff like dops, like really strong one color dops, to get this really powerful back end effect, right? You get like a splattering in the background of like a beautiful gold or something like that. But with the duos at like their best, you get these like really almost like maximalist strobe patterns, because you can have all these colors that mix. You can have these really strong strobes on your front that kind of like complement like the crazy rainbow patterns on the back end. And rather than acting as merely like a splattering, it's like an actual like full-on pattern that's created. It's a crazy effect.
Yeah, with the two LEDs, if you get some flashing patterns, get the right color complementary, I'd like to describe it as it feels like it's a holographic card, like the way that the colors kind of blend.
Oh, the
It feels like
foiling?
that. Yeah, it feels like
Yeah.
a foiling almost. It's insane.
It really is, because I remember the first night I got them, I was like describing them. I was like, I don't know how to describe it, but they look like crystals. And
Yeah.
people were laughing at me. I'm like, no, you're laughing at me now, but when you see them, you get it. Like they're sparkly. I don't know how else to describe it. Like even the synergies don't have that effect. The way I've described it is like synergies are like drawing with marker, right? And then with like the duos, you have highlighter. It's crazy, like how like sparkly they are. It's nuts. It's nuts.
I wonder how I'm gonna feel when I get my duo skins, because they're gonna be bigger. And another thing too I've been finding is I'm not liking the click as much in the casing that they're in.
Oh,
So I
really?
wonder when I have more, yeah. I wonder if when I have more surface area.
Quick
that's gonna feel
clarification: are the casings that you're using right now the ones that Stone Orbit gave you, or is this that you bought from Glow LEDs? Just for clarification.
No, these are the casings that I got with them.
Okay, just want to double check.
And then
So
I have my domes from Glow LEDs. Yeah.
What I was going to say is I think when you get your skins, they're going to be perfect because in my opinion, as soon as I got my skins, I had the same feeling. I was like, man, this click is just tough. It's not
That's
there.
accurate.
To be honest, I think I'm a minority that I actually like that click. I like that it was like super thick. Like for me, it's like there's no guarantee that I'm gonna not know if I click this or not, because like I have to put effort into it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense. Like, but also I'm like used to like slamming my hands together like accidentally, like especially in the past, and it's like the OSMs just have a really light click, so it's like a small tap would just set them all off by accident. And with these, like I have no mistake for that. It might also potentially be like an orbiter's mindset, because for them, crashing your orbit into something is like way more of a possibility, right? So it's
True.
like you definitely don't want to misclick there.
But I will say, after getting my skins, I like the click much more. It seems more consistent. It's more, I don't know, it feels better. It feels consistent. That's the way I'd explain it.
Did you notice any brightness difference in your opinion?
Yeah,
like-
I mean, I would say a
yeah,
little bit.
A little bit.
Like not enough for it to be a killer for me, because at the end of the day, I'm a glow LED slut and I love my fucking skins.
For sure.
They just feel so great. And so when you have the sleds in there that hold the battery right, they give you that kind of that all around support versus just trying to push the tip of a button into like the circuit board itself. It feels much better and just more resilient might be a good word for it.
Got it, a lot more sturdy.
Yeah, sturdy.
So here's a good question. Between the synergies and the duos, do they have clear bulbs or are they frosted? And is the other diode just like a little pod thing, or?
Me and Duo were like,
Yeah, I'm gonna grab mine real quick.
There is a very important reason why, and I have to always explain this to a lot of people, but for the audience, if you don't understand why I always ask this question, it's because it was a trend that Amazing Lights were. Okay, they went with frosted. Okay, that's actually a good thing in my opinion.
you got your sins on you, Josh?
They're in my backpack.
Okay.
I'll get it. I want to hear this. I want to be a part of this.
So
I got headphones. I'll go grab them.
So like with frosted bulbs and clear bulbs, there are pros and cons to both. I am very much an advocate for frosted bulbs because the default light should already blend your colors, and I mean I have a whole video that explains like color theory and stuff like that. But with clear bulbs, like yes, it makes them look brighter, but you have the lens flaring problem, the spotlighting problem, where they don't blend the colors properly and you can actually see the diodes individually, kind of deal. I mean, they even pointed this out with the Chroma 24s when Amazing Lights came out with those. They even showed it in the video, like them putting it up to their hand. Just they're like, oh yeah, you can see the 3 diodes, but as soon as you put a diffuser on, it's all fine.
Right.
But like I always will tell everybody, depending on which bulb you have, will dictate what kind of diffuser you should use. If you have a frosted bulb, you can go with clear diffusers. But if you have a clear bulb, you should be using frosted just so you can get the diffusion and blending to work properly. Otherwise, people are going to notice the spotlighting thing or lens flaring, whatever term people tend to use. And that's why I was just very curious, because I know okay, so we have moved back to the frosted bulb thing, which is great.
Gang.
I don't know. I would like to see a world where we just have the option for both, because I like frosted bulbs a lot, but I also like clear bulbs, and it's just my love for really obnoxious glove sets.
Sorry.
I'm just like, then why
No,
do
like
we
it's
have
like
frosted and
that's
clear
how Dustin
cases?
would describe it. I just have a love for obnoxious glove sets. Like
Yeah.
some of my sets are
Gonna
meant
melt
to hurt your
eyeballs.
face. Yeah, literally.
Well,
Or
see,
retinas on
here's the
fire.
thing that's so great about having a frosted bulb with a clear diffuser is that even though you have a frosted bulb, you don't have that opaqueness transmit through the clear diffuser. So you still get that very translucent look to your trails that a lot of people really like with clear diffusers, and they think clear bulbs is the way to go for that when it's not necessarily the case. So that's why I always think just having frosted bulbs is always a good default. And then I feel like, honestly, I really feel like we're kind of lacking in the clear
Either or.
diffuser. Yeah.
We are now.
Yeah, we are now. Yeah.
I would say there's been a couple colors that I want added, and hopefully they get added more in the palette for glow LEDs.
Kurt, if you're watching this, make clear diffusers.
Do it,
I love
Kurt.
you, Father, Godfather Kurt.
Please, Father, we have sinned.
But no, so kind of going back to the rechargeable battery aspect, Josh, in your video when you were doing your Synergy review, you were talking about the convenience that the Synergies have, where you have the charging ports that you can literally just plug it all in and keep it all in the glove, as opposed to like the Duos have to come out and go into their little charging station.
Right.
I don't know, since Vioh, since you have the Duos, do you actually see that as a little bit of an annoyance, or?
There's definitely more steps to it. It's more clicks to get to the end of the game, and so there's a little bit more. But at the end of the day, do I mind? Not really. It's cumbersome at times, but compared to obviously being able to just slide them all in. But I don't know. I just don't mind, I guess.
Yeah, it's so here's the thing. I know in the video I also mentioned that some people prefer, like I know McKinnley prefers that. He says that he has a method for doing it easily. I haven't figured out that method, so I've just been taking them out one by one as well. This is what I'll say. I feel like even regardless of the fact that I have to take the chips out, especially now that I have the Synergy skins on my set, it is a much easier time for me to charge my Synergies.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you've seen the cables, they're all just kind of laid out, right? So it looks cool, right? It looks like a bushel of greens or something like that. But it's also like kind of just out, right? I found with the Duo's casing, it's a much more elegant
So
kind of.
just so you know, Josh, there's a term in the
Josh,
in the
like,
communications department.
That changes everything for me. It's over.
And now you just like, they're just dangling, and it's
They're
like,
just dangling. I get it now.
and it looks so hype when you walk into a room. There's
I'm
people
so
walk in there, and they're just like,
stupid.
"What is going on your wall?" I'm like, "Oh, dude, that's technology."
That took like 2 additional IQ points for me to figure
Like a new
out.
Christmas decoration too.
Yo,
awesome.
literally. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that later, but that literally changes everything for me. Oh, but the one thing about the Duo's casings, I will say, is that it's a much more elegant like situation, right? Like I love them sitting in their case, like it's really cool. But I also found, like, for me, like I got like fat Shrek sausage fingers, so like for me, it's like I gotta sometimes like really dig in there to like put them in and take them out, and especially since like, McKinnley, can you actually show him the chip if you can? Because like the way that the board is set up, it's designed to be like as small as possible, but literally the charging port is not really a port. It's like literally a part of the circuit board.
Yeah, it's just a slot in the back.
It's just a slot in the back. I don't know how else to explain it unless you see it, but it's like the possibility of this chip breaking is actually pretty high, in my opinion.
Oh,
It's
so
getting
we're
the-
on the center. Okay, I thought we were talking about the
no,
I'm getting
duos.
the duos.
yeah,
I'm getting the
I'll
duos.
talk about the duos.
Okay.
Sorry.
Both. Gang, gang.
Gang. Yeah, so that's my big concern with the case is like, I'm afraid that like, I'm just gonna be a clumsy ass one day and just like.
Oh wait,
snap it back.
it's the wrong chip. I'm just kidding.
Well, because see, what I'm curious about is, couldn't we technically just go get USB-C extensions and then have cables?
Oh, I don't like this.
I mean, I can even see Kurt doing a quote unquote third party charging cable for the duos.
Right.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you see that? Do you see the chip?
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so it's literally
Oh.
like a part of the circuit board. It's not like a port that's like.
Yeah.
attached
No,
to it.
I
That's,
see
like-
what you
that's
mean
just-
now.
Yeah. That's just a
Okay.
contact.
Okay. Yeah. That's wow. That's actually much more different since we actually saw what the
Yeah.
synergies have
Right.
compared to. Okay.
I was really surprised when I saw that too. I think I get the design philosophy. They were trying to make it as small as possible for a coin size.
Mm-hmm.
But it does come with these choices and sacrifices, right? Like,
Well, it's one less piece of hardware. It's just built into the board. They don't have to have a
well,
port.
that's the thing, right? Like, I see the elegance in it, but I also am concerned from like a durability standpoint. It's not a good or bad thing. It's like a trade-off,
Right.
you know?
Another
Yeah, we will
con
see.
is like this is a Type-C charger, but it
Mhm.
only works on the dock. I've tried
Yeah, I
every
remember-
other
yeah.
Type-C charger, and
I remember
it
you
does
talking
not
about
charge.
Oh,
any
so
of
you,
them.
you have to put it on the dock in order for it to charge.
You have
I tried
to,
buying a Type-C 6 splitter to try to like do the same thing. I'm like, all right, guys, well here's a solution, and
Right.
it didn't work.
Oh,
And then
okay,
I
so they must
couldn't
have
charge
actually
my
pinning.
gloves. I was super sad.
I
Should've-
I would
should've-
have to see what the dock actually looks like, because to me maybe it might be a connection thing where one part of it is not actually connecting, since it's not like how, because if you look at your phones you have the outside part, right, that goes around the little slit for the yeah, I'm wondering, yeah, it's making me think maybe it's something that's set up that way where like you have to have another little connection part.
Yeah,
Right.
I think
Just gotta ask.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. I was actually kind of intrigued to see that. I'm like, really?
I was
So
surprised.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think that was also kind of like a concession, because I know it's like the thinnest chip, you know, I mean, because we
Yeah.
have some that are pretty stacked. Like if you look at the Evo series, they
Right,
were
right.
stacked.
like the actual circuit board is like as compact as possible. I think a part of the reason for that is to make it as backwards compatible as possible too, right? Like there's a lot of these legacy like accessories with the coin shaped casings, right? So I think it was a series of design decisions that they had to make. So I understand why they made the decisions, but it does come with its trade-offs. Like it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think that was the sensible decision. You know what I mean? Like to make it very kind of backwards compatible with legacy casings and all that stuff, because a lot of people are now like gung ho looking for 4.0 casings from Amazing Lights because they want to put it on the duos. And it's
I gotta
because of
say-
how beautiful they actually look in the EL casings. So that's the
Right.
interesting part.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I got a set of blue casings. I think they're 3.0 casings that I'm really excited to try out. That being said, quick side. I think I got a little battery acid on a couple of them. Does anyone know how to clean all that off of casings?
On the
rubbing
casings?
alcohol, right? Yeah, probably rubbing alcohol, right?
Yeah, even that.
Okay.
So you use a little bit of rubbing alcohol to kind of break it up, and then you just use some. If you have alkaline water, it's the best to pull battery
Alkaline
acid
water.
off. Alkaline water, yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. Okay, cool. Because I do
Let
play
me know.
like a day where I just like go through like my entire box and like just clean up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think one of the interesting things is that we're seeing, I don't even want to call it a divergence, but we're seeing two prominent methods that people are going with when it comes to these new forms of technology.
I have one more piece of thing that will add on.
Okay.
Okay, so I can't show you the other thing, but I can't show you this thing. Not many people talk about them. Have you heard of these? They're called capes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, what are those?
So basically, on a programmable chip of any size, you can put this on top of your board. It does two things. Let's say you don't have a sled and you have one of the older skins or casings that you feel like it could be tighter.
Mm-hmm.
This could give you a color option to highlight and light up too. But also it just holds your chip more in place, keeps it more steadier, as if you had a sled.
Okay.
In my opinion, the green or like red or blue, those pop out really, really well. And you could like trick someone into thinking you have two lights, or now maybe three, right?
Oh wow.
Just options. Another layer.
Layers.
Also the sleds can be colored too.
Right.
Yeah, I think what one major thing I will say about the sleds that people really don't understand is, it was kind of like it's a feature that was made by accident. So with the material that Kurt uses to make the sleds, they diffuse light really well. So it actually will travel around the chip. So you actually have a very, like, it does essentially the E dot effect, as I like to call it, because the E dots were like the brightest lights casing scenario, even though it was just the bulb with the two batteries and a little on-off switch. It wasn't even a button. It was just a little click.
It was a literal piece of plastic like that big. That's all it was.
Yeah, and I mean they were bright as hell. They like I remember how much the casings just popped out at you, so they made the lights just look huge. So the sleds actually kind of like inadvertently started to kind of adopt that idea through that. So I would really like to see Kurt kind of explore more of that, just finding more materials that can really make light travel through it better, kind of deal for that diffusion.
Because like a fucking blackout casing or a Batman mod, like EDOT with like a clear button, was the move. Like it was really cool to see.
A good question though, Josh, how long does the synergies last in terms of battery life? In terms like the duration of time.
I didn't do like a full on like battery test, and like I just kept it on and then like let it just run dry. Partially because one, it's like a test that if I was gonna do properly, like it'd be a very tedious test. But also I feel like most people aren't using it in that way, right? So I found that for me personally, in a practical use, when I had all of my when I had to set on a full brightness, it lasted me 3 days worth of sessions. And when I say sessions, like I mean like they were on for like a while. You know what I mean?
2 hours while or like an hour while?
I would say an hour to 2 hours. But
Okay.
I would say it lasted me about maybe 3.5 days. Which I would say, like, based on that experience, it wouldn't get you through a whole festival, but I think it would get you through a whole, like, night. Like, if you're, like, consistently throwing light shows back to back.
I performed last weekend and brought my synergies and duos, and I was worried about the duos dying because the whole cable thing. I didn't bring the dock, forgot to check, and then neither of them died.
Okay,
I will say I
slow
didn't
down.
have them on max brightness. I
Okay.
kept them at like medium.
Is that something you'd be willing to test next time?
Yeah, I probably just that was the original plan, but I didn't want to take a chance with the whole
Yeah.
dock thing. I was like, all right, and the extra glove that I have, I let a teammate use. So
Yes.
yeah, I wanted to, and it has spare batteries in case theirs died. So I just wanted to be sure that the gig went well.
That
Right.
makes sense. Maybe bring your vortexes as like a third backup just in case or
I
something like that.
did, but I left them for the afters. That's like the
Mm.
specials. So I'm like, all right, this is the goods, guys. You've been seeing
Gotcha.
these other things. Now I'm gonna show you some stuff that kind of mixes it all together.
Oh yeah.
That totally
Mhm.
makes sense.
Plus, pain out there in the field, you know.
Yeah,
in
I
terms of
definitely know when it comes to the vortex how much of a pain it is.
Yeah. I'm taking them on and off, which is really upsetting because, like, honestly, from a charging standpoint, I think they charge the fastest out of any of the sets.
They're
Actually.
Super Saiyan 3, but in the sense of putting them on, not charging. Haha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely agree to that.
Yeah, Peter, do you have any other questions? Like,
Okay, so in terms of the last question I actually have in mind for the technology section is we have a new, essentially we are seeing a dawn of a new interface, which technically, yes, we have already had this interface in place via the OSMs and the Spectras, being the third party interface, as I'm going to refer to it, meaning you use something else to program your lights instead of it being built in. I know I mess with the Vortex editor, and I love the Vortex editor. I also like that website that somebody made that has the circle that does.
lightshow.lol.
That is
Yes.
also Shane and Daniel.
Okay.
That was sick.
So
Sick.
barring that the light show website, which I think is just its own separate thing, I just think it's a good programming visualizer to help you like test what it's going to look like and then just be able to do it. That way you're not like wasting your lights doing that. How do you guys feel that we are moving more to like a web-based / Arduino programming interface rather than it being built in? Because I know I've saw a couple of posts of somebody getting really frustrated with their synergies. Granted, I didn't really know how they were programming them, but apparently he was having a hard time trying to figure out how to like get the sets to work right or something.
There was a couple of things. One is his computer wasn't compatible. So too old.
Oh, okay.
Two, he just was having issues in general. Like he wasn't understanding it. Yeah, I was having issues, and I talked to Jared myself too. It's not very user friendly, even to someone who's like been doing it for a long time, in my opinion. But once you get it, like Josh would probably say, it is like a lot better. But I don't get it yet. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I think I actually talked to Jared about this, and he's actually working on it. Like the issue is that from a natural user interface standpoint, it makes the most sense to have all of this just be a single pipeline, right? It's just like get to point A to point B. But right now, with the way the synergies work, it's like going to point A to point B to make the modes, and then going back to A, and then going to point C to making your playlist, and then actually setting up like your modes properly on your glove set. It's I've also had to have it explained to me, but I think overall for me, like the reason why I was grinning and laughing and stuff is like y'all know where I'm at. Like I've been doing this for a while, so like the whole programming side, like I'm super excited about it. Like I'm really curious to see if anything, like how those two like ecosystems are gonna like compete with each other, because they look like they can technically do the same things, but design philosophy wise they're on like very different mindsets right now.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
We had, what was it, the Atom Diary, the Chroma God. I did What's That Color set on Instagram. Now who's gonna be the Stone God?
The Stone God.
The Synergy Librarian. I don't know.
Yo, give that to Zan.
Oh man, but we're forgetting the Vortex.
That's
Scott.
I think when it comes to
Scott, sure.
Scott made some amazing sets. I mean, it's still one of my most watched light shows on my YouTube channel. Is the one that he made specifically for phasing and had me use it, and he was like, "Dude, this
great set."
That was an awesome set. I love that set.
For the synergies, I'm going to recommend Randall for that position, aka Trace, the dude from PHL. Like that dude's sets are immaculate.
Why are you talking about him?
Yeah. I mean, because I'm fanboying over those sets. Like they're insane.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, since there's this new understanding of how programming works now, because now we actually get to change how long the light's on and off, and understanding like that framework and how we have our lights work. There's a much deeper understanding. I think it's more of like having to teach people how to approach that understanding, like, you know. And I think the Vortex editor, in my opinion, made it the easiest. Like, I felt like it was the simplest one to use. You know, like, granted, there are terms that people would probably get confused by, like luminescence. It's like, that's the brightness. Well, why doesn't it just say brightness? Well, that's not how the programming reads.
It is the luminescence.
Luminescence is brightness. Like, it's another word for the same thing.
It's more
It's a
specific,
nuance.
right? It's like being more right. It's being more nuanced.
Right. No, I understand, because I was in the military. For crying out loud, MREs have a picture on it that says a rock or something. It literally will say or something.
Is it the essence of gloving?
It's the essence, man. You know, it's the essence.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus.
I love you, animated Jay.
Just explain what you mean by it.
Real quick, I just to toss in what I've been thinking about with those being able to. I like the third-party programming personally. Like I know they were real spotty and people had a lot of issues with them, but I even liked the Spectras with the hubs. The Evo set is what I ran for a while, and I really enjoyed that just because it was fun, it was interactive, and it was super intuitive, and it was easy. So I think as these other ones develop, I think we'll get to that point to where it's super just user friendly and things like that. I think we're just really early.
Yeah.
The only concern I have is I just want to make sure that we can get to these programming things in the event that a company maybe exits. I know we don't ever plan for that, but like Steam, this is my fear in the gaming community right now, is that as these companies go away over time, we don't have access to their servers. That means we can't enjoy that product anymore.
No,
and so
right.
that's really where, as long as there's something, like that's one thing I do like about the Duo is that you can program them manually. So if all else fails, let's say Vortex programmer goes away, Stone falls off, and nothing else happens, we still have the chips that are functional.
Right. I've been thinking about that a lot recently because I've been investing more into my Steam library recently, and I can't see Steam going away anytime soon.
Right.
Because like they are in a lot of ways, like they are a huge part of like the PC gaming space, right? But you know, if they were to just suddenly announce tomorrow that like they're shutting down, right? That's like hundreds of games for a lot of people that are just
thousands,
right? But we're still kind of pretty early in the life cycle of these two products, right? So I don't think we have too much to worry about. The one hope that I really have, honestly, is that because these two pieces of hardware spaces are technically based on like open source, that like worst case scenario, like if these companies fall, like there is like third-party software that you could flash on there, and that I think that is a part of what's going on with at least Stone Orbit's design space, right? Like I believe all of their software is open source. The LED Gloves studio space is different. I think as of right now they're very much so in the proprietary like mindset, but that's because like they're doing a lot to cater that experience with like the studio. Like if you look at the studio and actually like mess with it, it's like really well thought out, and I like it. But I think that based on what I see like in like the actual folders for each individual chip, I think it is possible that someone could potentially make like a third party like software for it. It's too early, and I think like someone needs to do it, you know. But I don't think we have anything to really worry about yet.
I was saying this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't think that it's going to be an issue anytime soon or anything like that. It was just an off idea.
No, it's a good thing to think about. I actually thought about that for a second too, like a while back. I was like,
I was even saying this before Amazing Lights died, that we needed somebody to come with a aftermarket application to work with the Spectras, because they were just not going to do anything with it. And granted, like, yes, they were still in business at the time, so they could have just nuked that project hardcore. But since they're basically kind of gone, somebody can actually do this, and I don't see them being like, oh, hey, it's like, you're not making them anymore. What's out there is what's out there.
And even before they were gone, that we didn't even know this, but the app was connected to Facebook, and Facebook is the one who kind of just said they didn't care about that third-party application thing, which also screwed all that. So that's why all the servers for all that are gone completely.
Yeah, for the community sets.
You have saved on your phone if you're able to see all of them. But
Right.
that's why like, I'm almost considering selling my Spectras. Even though it really sucks, but because I don't really have, they're either what they're programmed as now, which is basically just my unique set of patterns that can't be recreated, and they're just relics that are just gonna sit there, or I'm gonna let someone use them. But then I can't really do anything with them anymore, which sucks.
Oh yeah, see, that's my fear a little bit.
So,
yeah.
So there's a cautionary tale, I think, for any of the tech creators in the community. If you're watching this, you know, Kurt and Shane and Jared.
Me and Discord, I consider that.
Whoever's at Glow Effects.
Whoever's at Glow Effects, that's something to keep in mind, because now basically the Spectres are kind of like a relic, and I don't think they do have a sense of value because they are motion reactive, which is I wanted to kind of point out. Man, there's such a high demand for motion reaction to come back, which I find very interesting. Because I just felt like people didn't really take the motion reaction reactive lights as seriously as they should have. And now that they're gone, people are just like hounding for them because, like, I don't know. It's just a strange phenomenon to see. I'm just like, but you guys never really had these discussions, because with motion reaction, it brings on a whole different dynamic of how you go about programming in general.
You also had two perspectives. They either A, it's a gimmick, or B, they're too expensive, or I don't want to work on using that stuff and learning how to program. There was those three things that were obstacles.
I feel like they were very divisive for sure, but they definitely had their people. Like, I definitely loved using them, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think people just couldn't really, lack of a better phrase, open their minds to the possibilities by understanding what this brings to the table.
Everyone's third eye was calcified that day, I guess.
I guess. I'm not entirely sure.
Ever since we moved past bulbs, they've just been new glovers, and each generation is like, that's not gloving.
That's not
Yep.
How dare you?
Yeah, well, and I think the funny thing is a lot of the people who are asking for the atoms and stuff like that, they're newer glovers. Like, there are newer glovers who actually want to play with this. Like, they are open to the ideas of what it does. So, I don't know. I certainly hope Zohar actually brings the atoms back, like, or a new amalgamation of them. I mean,
I don't want to pay $500 on the secondary market. I can't do it, man.
Dude,
I can't do it.
Jesus.
$500 for a set of atoms, dude.
That's what somebody told me. I was like, "There's no shot, dude."
I'll f***ing do it.
I mean,
Fuck.
I would agree. If you do it, more power to you. Like, it's just,
I'll hoard them all.
I'm just like, whatever. Like, it's like, I mean, so this is what I've heard, right? That technically speaking, the microchip market for like accelerometers right now are actually like going back to normal. The issue for gloving is that who's gonna bite that bullet first, really.
Don't be scared, whoever's watching this. You do it.
Yeah, I'm a micro. I'll pay for it, and if I'm gonna pay for it, someone else is willing to pay for it.
1000%.
I would certainly agree to that. I mean, I remember when I first got my hand on just the original atoms. It wasn't even the SE atoms. The special edition atoms are like the most highly sought after. So if you're trying to gun for that one in particular, okay, you're going to cough up pretty pennies, because they're not as much in production as the original atoms were. So, it still is taking me. I've had them for like 3-4 years or 5 years now. I'm still studying them. There's so much depth within just one program set of the atoms that it's not just a simple thing. Like, it is a very simple premise, but there's so much depth with it. I mean, geo mode alone just
What's geo mode?
geo mode is
Yeah, the
where it
limited
works on
edition.
directionality instead of motion. So wherever you
Oh.
point, the colors will change.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then if you want to pass a certain threshold, it will just do.
Then it will go
all-
into whatever 3-color pattern that you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so fucking cool.
Actually, that geo mode, especially for SE items, had one of the best defaults in like the history of gloving.
My
That
favorite
everyone
default.
knows what I'm talking about. Is
The
that
whole set, except
Yeah,
for like
that-
one mode, pretty much.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I just
Do you have the limited edition or the special editions?
I was talking about SEs. I didn't even know
I
there
was
was limited edition
They're
atoms.
limited editions too.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
no, I just have the standard atoms.
Okay.
Wait,
Okay,
what
you just have the standard atoms. So limited editions had the programming of the SE atoms,
Sure.
but clear bulbs.
I would have loved.
They were the last run that they had.
Maybe we'll get Mega Sloth back when they release new chips.
That would,
I don't know, I
Corey.
want to know why he left to
Back.
begin with. He was one of the first ones to leave, apparently.
I don't know. I mean, you know how it is.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have him on. He may tell
behind the
us.
scenes that was beyond.
Oh, you mean with FL specifically?
Yes, it
Gotcha.
wasn't like just because of like money or life. It was other things. I scrolled up and saw a little bit. I don't know what exactly, but people were like bickering. Yeah.
I wasn't privy to that. I just miss his flow. Dude's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I just know one person, for example, Taj. If you ever want to talk, still open to talking. Don't like me for some reason, because I was making a project that was involving giving credit to whoever made what color. Because I was basically making a bunch of graphics, showing the color pattern, the flashing pattern, and then like a little like character graphic. Like, oh, this is that character. This is the color set. And then it was then you slide me doing the light show with the color set. That was the whole idea, and he made a whole bunch of them. But apparently he had an issue with that I was jacking shit from him or something. Even though the whole point was to give credit to everybody.
I'm not really
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I was told. So yeah, I don't know. People have egos, and I just want to should just try to do the best thing for the thing because we care about the thing.
Yeah,
We're
I
here
get
for
it.
the thing.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, without going too far off the rails on this, there's a lot of things that have happened within the community with individuals and companies that, I mean, we can have an entire episode on itself, but I'm also not the type of person who is going to seek out the airing of dirty laundry, as I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also am the type of person who would, if people want to tell their story about it, I'm more than willing to give them a platform to let people hear it. You know what I
You're
mean?
more than willing to be Gloving's Dr. Phil.
Not as much as Gloving's Dr. Phil, because I would never want to compare myself to that show.
Oh no, you
Send
should.
them to the ranch.
I mean, I watched the Dr. Phil episode after EDC LA 2010 that brought on the whole thing with Gloving and all that. Oh, that was just a nightmare to watch. I'm like, nope. But there's a lot of stories that need to be told within the community, because there's a lot of lessons to learn from a lot of these experiences.
Right.
And I think it's because we are getting so many newer glovers into the community. That's why I do see a need to do that. But for those people who have those stories, you have to reach out to me, because I'm not going to seek you out, because I'm not the type of person who goes and seek that out. But I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the community, especially this year alone. There was a lot of stuff going on in this community. But I feel like there's a time and place for everything. And I feel like there needs to be a different place for the airing of dirty laundry show.
Loving Paradigm. Better than Dr. Phil.
Better than Dr. Phil.
Clothing Paradigm After Dark.
Well, to me, I will always tell my audience, no matter what subject matter I talk about, I ultimately leave it for you to come to your conclusions and come to your judgments. And whatever you decide on your judgments is what you decide on. And that's what's important to me, that you come to your own conclusions. But you have to do the work to come to those conclusions.
Go back to the topic. What's gonna happen when people like cataracts stop making bulbs?
Woof, I don't even want to think about that, dude.
Dun 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 dun.
Not the tears, probably.
Why would you
Don't
bring
put
that
that
up?
in the universe.
I mean, I'm just saying. I've
Knock on some wood.
DM'd a couple people.
Uh-huh.
Remember how I asked you about the soldering thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I reached out. Nope.
Really?
Really?
So they can take that to their grave.
Yeah, I'm like, let it die.
I mean, to me, it's one of those things where, like, if that does happen, I feel like somebody who has the determination enough to go and pursue it will pursue it.
I know, but we
If
could just streamline that process if people didn't want to just, because it's kind of like if you're.
Well, if you think about it, that the whole if the bulb creators want to be like that and take that to their grave, just like how a lot of old heads took a lot of secrets to their grave from the early days of Glove and Community, that's just part of the cycle. You know what I mean? The life cycle in that sense.
I guess, but.
And then someone will come back, and then they're gonna be like glorified. Yep.
True.
I don't know. I just think it's like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh no, that'll leave Zhao.
Annoying.
Yeah, but I think this might be a good time to move on to the other topics that I had in mind. So
If he did it, I'd be happy. I won't lie. Good for him, but he has to communicate with the community if he wants to
make it
get
happen.
any of that back in line. Yeah,
Yeah,
doors open.
Well, speaking of like people in the community trying to do really good marketing, I know we have heard a lot of communications about 2 comps so far. I do want to touch on the drop, since that is a very new type of like competition that I actually really enjoyed. We'll touch on that in a second, but if I remember correctly, Vioh, you said you're going to G3 Battlegrounds, and
Yeah, I'm actually going to be at both comps.
oh, okay, you're gonna be at both. Okay, I thought you were just going to one of them, and I know McKinnley was going to LGC or Legacy Gloving Competition, or is it competition or champion?
You guys are both going
I'm
to
going.
both.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to both? Okay, so you're both going
I'm
to both. That's totally
competing.
fine.
In Texas, but I'm working in G3.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I gotta have you back on after those, because
I'm really
definitely get your
curious.
perspective of both.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which one are you guys most excited about? Because I can certainly tell you, I'm actually a little bit more excited for G3 Battlegrounds. I'm a little disappointed now that the doubles comp went away. I really wish that would have stayed, but I understand. So,
Excited for different reasons.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Like, I feel like as someone who won't be able to go to either, and we'll just have to
Sad.
like sulk about it. I know. I'll just cry about it. I feel like I'm really excited for Legacy, in the sense that it really feels like the best version we can do right now from like a grassroots standpoint, right? Like, this is like a community run event, and I really love that. Whereas I feel like G3 is like holding on to like that certain level of like prestige that we had with competitions, like especially during like the amazing days, especially with like Teddy's experience like doing stuff. And I think that I know that he wasn't too happy with certain ways things were run during that first G3, but I know he was optimistic because it was like a pilot, right? It was like a testing ground to see if this could work. And the thing is, one thing it proved no matter what is that it could work. And I think that, despite the fact that the doubles competition is, replaced with a single limb, I think the fact that he still kept the triples competition, right, is a good sign. Like, he is like willing to use these resources and that prestige to go into different directions, which is one thing I think that he's always tried to do. Because I know like last G3, he tried to do the full body comp and stuff like that. He was bringing in all these other periphery communities together. So it's going to be really interesting to see what's going on.
yeah, I mean, personally, I still thought that G3 was a overall good experience.
Yeah,
I honestly, if Teddy, if you watch this, you actually did your best with what you had, and honestly, it could have been way worse. And like things still moved smoothly.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Half of it was our own fault too.
Yeah, and
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of it's on the audience's end's fault, so it's not just
Absolutely.
yours.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I brought that up is I feel like he was the one who had the most criticisms to say, right? Like, he was being self-critical. But from what I've heard overall, like, the event went well,
Yeah,
I mean, it was fantastic in my opinion. I went in as a competitor. I wasn't working that one. For it being my first in-person event, there was definitely a few hiccups in the road, but I imagine any gloving competition is going to be a lot like herding kittens, and it's just going to be impossible. But at the end of the day, I think everyone came together and really knocked out of the park. And kind of like what you were saying with Teddy bringing in that full body comp and then now doing the 3v3s and things like that. I really it feels like maybe the production level might kind of be leveling up a little bit. Like we're starting to see kind of branch out of just a gloving event to where now it's becoming maybe a dance event around that stuff too. So I thought that's really neat how he's kind of pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're kind of doing a scaling down on like not production quality, but just like the extravagance. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like UFC or what was it? UGC, Ultimate Gloving Competition.
Yeah, UGC.
The one that Dr. Freeze threw, which that actually happened this year. We can actually touch on that one as well. Even though it was a lot more, it kind of felt like a lot more of the dance battle videos that we used to see back, a little bit back in the day, probably like the early 2010s, which is good. Because the production quality in terms of the video quality was there, and it just kind of, there was an air of familiarity with that competition that like made it a little bit more digestible to me. It's a little weird to explain. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but with Legacy Gloving Competition, I feel like we're starting to see this mentality that I can only relate to through my Magic the Gathering experience, and that's the different formats. So we got the Legacy format, which is the Legacy Gloving Competition. It's just what we've been doing since the beginning, basically, in terms of a gloving competition. But we're also seeing different formats come out. Like Teddy's pushing the double. Well, I wish he stayed with the doubles, but he was trying to do doubles, and he's doing the 3v3, which I think I know why that one's staying compared to the doubles. And the simple fact is, the simple fact is that with the 3v3, you are not working with another person per se to do your show. You are you're doing what you can and hope to God that your other two team members at least make another win so you can move on to the next round. As the doubles, that's completely a different type of thing going on, because now you are incorporating things with another person. And you don't see a lot of people practicing that kind of format. There are a couple out there, one in particular being Serge and his girlfriend. Like, they have been killing it, and I really feel like they're going to be pushing that, pushing out the foundations of how to actually work as a team and do pair gloving performances, which I really wanted to see, and I wanted to see more people get into that, because now we're adding a layer of more social aspect, that it's like, oh, I'm not just doing this myself to say I'm the best. I'm working with somebody to create something that could be the best thing as a paired team.
Right.
So an example of getting more people. We need, as a community, we need to work together more. As an example. Exactly.
That's exactly what I was getting into. But I also like the 3v3 setup, because it's Glover A versus Glover A and so on and so forth. So if you actually know the team setups, you can actually play the like future mind game stuff where it's like, okay, well, I know if we have a lot of people are going to be in this one, I know I can put this Glover because he'd be a really good lineup for these. And
the strength.
Yeah, you can actually sit there and understand, like, there's more strategy going on with that. But that's also if you really know the playing field.
I get it. It's like, it's like Fire Emblem.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Teddy's really still doing something that I feel like a lot of people need to really just try at, because at the end of the day, it's all new, but everything is not like there's no well defined like meta when it comes to doubles, or even with the 3v3, there's no defined meta with it. So it's completely new territory.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've been advocating this forever, right? That I want to see more competition formats,
Yeah.
and I really hope it goes well. One thing I will say, just like across the board for all of these competitions that are happening, is I want to see better curation of competition videos, because like there's some people who are just have more opportunities to travel and like go watch the competitions in person, right? And for me, that's something I want to do. Like I want to actually like just watch more competitions. I don't need to compete as much personally. I want to like see these people go at it, you know?
Right.
But like for someone like me who's not always going to be able to travel, it's like I feel like I don't always get as excited as I want to be, because like the curation of videos is very difficult. And actually, you know, I'm going to bring up the drop real quick. I don't know if we're segueing into that directly, but
I was
the thing
just getting to that point. Yeah.
right. The one thing about the drop that I thought was really cool was that last minute, Puppet changed the rule a little bit. So it's like you have to post it on his Discord, you know, and you have to post it here. And it's like it doesn't change a lot, but what it does do is that it kind of hyper focuses that pipeline. Whereas like if you just post it on GL, you're kind of competing with all the other general gloving videos that are going to be good put on there. But specifically being on his Discord, you know, the pipeline is a lot shorter. So it's like you're gonna see a lot. Like I remember seeing all those drop videos and just going one by one, and I was like, yeah, this is great. I felt like I was like a part of the experience as a
I will
spectator.
say though, that was because of an error, because he made stipulations on how you submit it and didn't test it.
Well, no, I mean that's fair, but I mean regardless, it still had an unintended side effect that I noticed.
Yes, and that's a good point. Valid
Yeah,
point.
like that's my point. Regardless, it's like I want to see better competition curation for the rest of us who won't be able to be there.
Checks and balances. That's all I meant by that.
No,
I'm like
no,
super iffy on details, so that's why I'm like
no,
nitpick.
I brought that up because I had no idea that that was the case. But now that I
I'm
know,
on
fair
top
enough.
of it all.
Fair enough.
That's the other thing as well, is I feel like we haven't really got to explore much, but like online competitions, especially not 2023 but 2022, I really wish I actually covered this last year. We had a lot of great online competitions happen. I mean, we had the Wimp Olympics, we had Tech Games, we had Flowtron, Mr. Freckles IGL comp, which I covered, which was fantastic. That me and Genghis Wrath had a blast doing that one. That first round though is a killer, and I'm glad that I broke it up into 2 parts. But man, there was just a lot of great stuff, and I feel like there is a good way to curate the content. One of the things that I feel like is a good shift, depending on like what kind of competition we're doing, like online competitions, I really feel like is a perfect place for live streaming gloving. Like the live gloving live stream market is poised to like have competition coverage be really good, especially for online comps. They just need to, I feel like there's a better way to manage like the dates and stuff for the competitors to make it a little bit more fair. So like if you show like the first half of round 1, you give them like a deadline, but then the second half gets a different deadline, so they have the equal amount of time to do their thing. That was kind of one of my things when it came to like GFC. Everyone had the same deadline, but it's just like you didn't cover it all at once. So, you know, and that's what the competitors are doing. They're watching the coverage because they want to hear the feedback and be able to use that for the next round. But if they already, yeah, it's.
And I feel like for a lot of people too, especially if you're newer, it's a good way to kind of like understand like how gloving works on a back end, right? Because I like this is something that I've said before within like the last year too, is like I feel like I wish there was more people in like the first 3 years of gloving who were there to like explain things to me, right? Instead of me having to figure stuff out on my own and having this kind of like almost like more of like having to feel stuff out, right? And not having like the proper terminology or terms to be able to like express what it is I'm looking at or what I want to do. So having that coverage, I think, is super helpful for people trying to level up. Like, it's like that's what's going on. That's what I've understood in the back of my brain. Now I have words to properly define it.
We need more commentators out there talking about it. I mean, like that's when I first started getting into gloving and things, and I came across Peter's channel. Those were the videos I just glued to for a long time. Just sitting and listening to people talk about it. Even like just sitting in Discord calls with people, just listen to people talk about it, just to learn all of that stuff, kind of like you're saying. Makes it much easier than trying to guess, because I'll tell you what, I'm a bad guesser when I try to figure shit out. I'm like, oh, that's not how that worked at all.
Well, that's the thing. I do wonder how much in terms of cost and resources it would actually cost to be able to do like a live stream for.
Well, I'll be running the live stream for G3.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna be heading up the media team on that stuff.
Do you actually mind going into that?
And he gave
like what your plan is? I mean, if you can't right now because of whatever business stuff, like no worries. But I'm just curious because I know that's something that me and Scott Stevens talked about a good while ago. So yeah.
So it's not obviously nothing's in stone. A lot of this stuff's up in the air. I'm still talking to Teddy. We're still a little bit out, so most of my stuff won't come until the end. But as far as the basics, it's just we'll have a phone that will be streaming for vertical platforms, and then we'll have GoPros running OBS or not running OBS on the GoPros, but using OBS and GoPros to run the horizontal landscape stream. And the biggest cost of entry is the computer, but I already have one. Luckily, I'm very blessed to be able to have the laptop that I do that can run all of that. And then outside of that, it's really just set it up and run as long as you have consistent internet. Like I'll run off of their Wi-Fi and set my phone up as a failover so that if there's any bandwidth issues, it'll click over to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, basically your laptop's the central node for it all. Yeah,
it's going to be very simple. It's not going to be high production. I'm not going to have a bunch of really cool scene animations and transitions and stuff. But it's going to be, watchable. People are going to be able to sit and enjoy, know what's going on. Because I know that was one of the bigger complaints about G3 is their live stream was struggling, unfortunately. And so that's why I think coming in doing that's what's going to help with the people that can't make it out there. So I agree with your point that we need better kind of coverage, curation, kind of all of the, whether it be during or post, whatever that is, we definitely need to have a better way to kind of curate that stuff into a single area. So it's not just bled in with like another infinite feed of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I wish you guys luck because if anything, it sounds like it's already going to be like 10 times better than last year. I know last year, it being like the first time you guys were really trying this, that was one of the key points that a lot of people had, including the people like running the event. And I think that second year is going to be better and you guys will have more data to eventually make that part of the process seamless, because I think if you guys get that on lock, it will really do a lot for like the community,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people took a lot of time of reflection from G3, and I feel like and this is what I'm also hoping with LGC is that they took a lot of notes, because I think almost everybody who's running that one went to G3 and saw how that played out. So I think they're kind of doing more of a return to grassroots aspect to it, which is great. I'm happy for that. But I also really like that we are branching out and trying new in-person formats. So the thing I do want to touch on is definitely the drop. So for the audience members who don't know, Puppet and his amazing ideas that he has had hosted a kind of online competition, quote unquote, or contest, as I guess I would call it, because it's not you're going up against another person. It's literally you're playing to the audience, and yes, they have 3 judges, I think. And they had 2 winners come out of this. You know, it wasn't like, oh, everybody had to like go up the rounds to get to that point. It was just like, nope, everyone submits and we'll choose 2 people out of that.
One and done.
Yeah, and it was really great. And then the whole premise is just how do you approach the drop? He was able to curate this pretty much a idea that is curated about everything that we do within the performance. You know, we focus on musicality very heavily, and this is something that focused really heavily on that. And he just took one major thing that everyone always focuses on, and that is the drop of the song. You know, what you do at the drop will make or break your show a lot of the times. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to make that the challenge. What do you do at the drop? Show me what you can do, kind of deal. And I believe I know Vioh, you submitted for it. And
I did.
McKinnley, did you submit for it or?
I did indeed.
Oh, okay. I think me and Josh didn't submit. I know I was really busy.
I recorded, and then I looked at it on my GoPro, and I was like, "Man, these are trash. Whatever. I'm just not gonna do it." And then I regret it because later I looked at the footage on my computer. I'm like, "Oh no, these are actually pretty good."
Right.
Release them, Josh. Put them out.
No, if I had to suffer, y'all suffer. No one gets to suffer.
No.
No.
I put out both my takes. I had
Oh,
to.
really?
Yeah. Apparently everyone liked the take I didn't like. So what I learned is that everyone has different tastes on musicality
Yeah.
and takes on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just being scientific
Yeah.
here. We all hear things differently no matter what. Like, yes, there's a lot of things we can all share in terms of hearing, but with all the different little minute little conditions, I mean, I know somebody who can't really hear a lot of low baritone
Yes.
sounds, you know, in terms of frequencies. Like, it's really bad. But then again, that's another story altogether.
Mm.
But I like this idea where he was just like, I want to see what you do when it comes to something as simple as understanding what the drop is. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, you must hit these things in order to get it. It's just like, here are songs that have drops in them. What do you do? Show me what you can do with this. And I think a lot of people are going to warm up to this idea because it's not like, oh, I'm going up against another person. I have to figure out how I need to approach my performance to beat their performance. It's more of, can I win the audience over as well as the judges? And
Well, it's not an audience. It's only judge.
yeah, I really do wish we had more audience voting, polling happening within Glove competitions, because then it would just be, even if it doesn't have like any weight on the scoring at all and who advances, I would like to see popular opinion. You know, I like to see
You
that.
want an American Idol gloving.
Well, yeah.
Well, actually, Peter, do you mind if I go into a slight tangent? It's still on the topic of competition.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So recently, I had an interesting experience where I did this exhibition match against Infinite, and I knew from the start it was a exhibition match, but what I originally thought was that it was going to be based on like, what that meant was like it was going to be based on a pop vote. And then when the competition got released, it wasn't, and I was like, okay, you know, that's fine. Like, I just didn't understand, whatever. A couple people personally messaged me and said they didn't like that, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And then one person specifically, 30K messaged me and says, I loved it. And I was like, actually, yeah, do you mind going into that? And he said, I love it because like in like the rap battle scene, that's what a lot of exhibition battles are. Like it's literally a showcase. There's no like winners or losers. You just showcase the battle and then it's done. And you know, like people talk about it. That's kind of the point. And I thought about that from that perspective. I was like, okay, I kind of see the appeal now, right? Because I've been advocating for exhibition battles like for a long time, but that was an element I never really thought about. Personally, I would kind of like to see more of that, actually, like in live competitions, like 2, maybe 3 battles that are like high profile matches that like whether there is like mostly just based on like crowd appeal or whether there is actually some sort of winning losing system. I don't really know. Whatever people decide to do, but I would like to see more of these high profile matches, like crazy matchups, because a lot of people, if nothing else, really enjoyed my matchup with Infinite just for what it was, like that matchup, you know.
He told me in here that whenever we see each other in person, we got a battle.
Uh-huh.
So he's gonna be at both those competitions that we're talking about.
Oh shit!
Gotcha.
That should be interesting.
Exhibition.
Yo,
live.
get someone to
like,
record it, please. Get someone to record it, please.
Yes,
That would
exactly.
be super neat. I would love to see that.
I mean, everyone's begging for exhibition matches, absolutely, and I know people would want to do it. I think if there was really just somebody that helped coordinate it and manage the logistics of it, I bet a lot of people would really be into that, like hitting up OGs and stuff like that are actually still active and going on. 'Cause I know every time I talk to anybody about LGC, I think even in the LGC chat, they're like, "Are we doing exhibition matches between the judges?" Like they want to see that kind of stuff. So I would, and myself included, I would love to see something like that come to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. Or someone who's like not even technically competing, but like just there to like
Right.
hang out, right? Because like for example, like I don't know, let's just say like for example, like Poe, as a pure example, wasn't competing and like
Mhm.
coordinate ahead of time, like, hey, I know you're just coming, but would you like to be a part of this thing against like another just random example, like Tuna? You guys aren't competing, but you guys just want to do a quick match for the crowd, you know? That'd be fucking neat.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I
take
think
my
as we
shot for that.
start getting more people in on these events, getting the logistics handled, I think that's where we'll start getting. Like, I think next year's going to really do well for us. I just got a feeling.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Only gloving pay-per-view.
Yeah, I
Only hands.
Only hands.
the only thing I haven't really heard a lot of discussion about is just more online comps going on. So I'm hoping to see more online comps get announced in the coming year. I would like to see Flowtron come back and do another round of that because that was a lot of fun. I will certainly say that took a lot of effort to do. I really did not properly estimate the amount of work it went into just coordinating with 4 other people to get shows together to submit at a deadline. Holy crap.
Yeah. So my thoughts with that honestly is that this is just based on like talking to people, but I feel like a lot of people are getting tired of like these full-blown competitions that are online, both not in terms of competing but specifically like running them. Like it's a lot of effort.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, right? Which is why I think like these smaller bite-sized competitions kind of like the drop have a lot of potential. Like I can potentially see us doing more in-person comps that are like full-blown and more of these bite-sized challenges like the drop. Because I mean honestly, after helping out with Anthology like a year or so back or something like that, like all I had to do was judge, but watching Dustin do all the work for that, he said it wasn't like a huge deal, but for me I was like, that looks like a lot of work.
Now imagine though if you had Flowtron and the prize was $1,000. Now people are shutting up. That's the thing. People don't want to work for the time they don't feel like it's worth. But they already barely take themselves seriously to begin with. So to get them to choreograph a thing.
True.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard.
True.
But that's where it starts. And I think that's why people are kind of like running to LGC faster, was because of that. But if people had just supported things in other areas faster, we'd be better. Like gloving for charity, for example. If that was better supported, who knows where we'd be at in the online competition setting right now.
True.
People didn't support that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, like, and this is something that I've been kind of wanting to do in terms of like an online competition, is like kind of just have the format be very much like American Idol, So You Think You Can Dance kind of format, where you have a lot of people do their auditions and then you start kind of filing down the process, and then you get to like your top 20, and that's when you start doing like individual showcases and stuff like that, because traditionally with 32 competitors, you're sitting there on the first round watching 32 videos. and you're having to give some feedback for the video, and then like repeat for like it takes 4 hours on average from what I've seen between Wimp Olympics, Tech Games, myself covering it. Just it's a lot. It's just a lot of footage that you have to cut through. So I feel like making a format where it's like people audition, and then if you get to move to the next round, do like a little montage of showing everybody doing the work kind of deal. But like their own individual video will be like posted on their own channel or wherever they do for the submission. So that way people can watch them individually, but just to curate the show to keep progression going and make it a little bit more tight knit. That's how I would go about it. But I would want to get down to like top 20, and then it's just like single elimination for the next, or like double elimination for every week after that. Have audience interaction at that point as well with the whole voting system, which I would have to figure out how to do that. I have no clue where to begin on that. I got to do research on that. But,
easy. Discord. I can do it for you.
Well, like it'd be cool to have like how like American Idol had like, oh, call this number or send a text of this number to this number, blah, blah, blah. And you can do it up to like 10 times. Like that would be a cool voting system to have, because people are very familiar with that setup. So, but that's something I feel like I have in the future. I've already been sitting there thinking like the rounds having like different themes. Like one would be 80s theme, one would be disco, one would be just general 70s, stuff like that.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it just let people express themselves through just being challenged on like, hey, jump out of your comfort zone. Go into this era of music and see what you can find that you'd be like, yeah, I groove to this. I want to express through this song or whatever. Be really, really cool. But yeah, I really do see online competitions kind of going through a state of metamorphosis. And I feel like Puppet really broke the mold on that with the drop. So I'm hoping, especially like Materia coming up with something like that, just like a version of the Wimp Olympics where it's kind of like how the drop is, instead of just being like a traditional comp. I would like to see how that goes. Or even having Gloving Olympics general would be cool.
That could be insane.
Like, competition. I've been telling people there are 3 things that I needed, but I think solidified the 4th element. Basically, when it comes to competition, there are 4 reasons you have any business in it. 1, there's a challenge of some sort that appeals to you. B, it could be a platform to showcase something. 3, you're looking for some form of validation. 4th, the prize. Someone could be desperate, and this is their one thing that they're like amazing at, right? And it pulls out that crazy drama. When you look at all the stories of these kind of things, those are the scenarios, right?
Right.
You have all 4 elements, or if you just have one really strong element in each thing. Like with the challenge thing, Tech Games, Whip Olympics. That's just for challenge. It's just because I want to be the best Whip Olympic, Whip Olympian, etc. Validation, you're trying to, let's say you're doing a competition that a team's holding. You're looking for their validation so you get on that team. Just all these kind of things. If we just think about it that way, that can push the community. But there's like an element missing, or not an art. There's just not an element at all, and it's just a competition for competition's sake.
No, yeah. I think a part of that too is something that Peter's brought up in the past, is that I feel like in a lot of ways we no longer have like as many like high profile like blubbers that we really keep an eye on. I mean, we do, but it's like back in the day they were treated more like almost like micro celebrities.
They were fewer. It felt like in the
right. I feel like there was more of like a viewership element to everything, and it almost felt like pro wrestling in a way, where like you have these certain people who are like high profile competitors or like artists. Yeah, I don't know, like if that's something that will ever really come back. I would like to see it because it made stuff a lot more exciting. I mean, especially from a viewer like standpoint. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so there's one thing I do want. I really. This is something I've been wanting to have come back for a long, long, long time. And it's something that I miss because I've heard it time and time again with my generation of glovers. I want features to come back. And I don't know how, without Amazing Lights, how they did it. Like, I want that to come back. I want there to be like this weekly posting, somebody just featuring a Glover because they found their video and they like originally link it and they showcase it on, in a public sphere like YouTube, and see it get 200,000 views again. And hearing Glovers be like, oh yeah, me and my friends always met up on Wednesday and we will watch the next feature video that came out and we would discuss like all the stuff within that video. I want that to come back. And I feel like we are poised to have something like that happen again since we have such a new batch of generation of Glovers that I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, there's not a lot of people coming in. There's actually a good number of people coming in. I just feel like they're really not looking in the right place. Like GL, granted, yes, there are a lot new people showing up in there now, which is great. But I'm seeing a lot more people on Reddit pop up. I feel like we are poised, especially here in WWG, to just kind of get a lot more people into the limelight in that sense and just be showcased for their work kind of deal. Another thing, especially when it comes to competition thing, and I think EL had a way to pull this about. You can tell people's stories, like the reason why they went into competitions. Especially like bosses, like you had that little moment where they actually talked to the competitors who were going to next round, so you were actually following a story. Right. I'm not saying that we need to have like Mortal Kombat, Liu Kane's in this tournament because he's trying to find revenge for his brother's death, blah 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 blah. We're like, not that. Granted, that would be great storytelling, but that's the element I feel like we're missing a lot of the times, that we don't have this narrative to follow competitors. Here's a great example of that. In Imagine the Gathering, especially during the Pro Tours, pre 2016. Okay, this is where I'll put it. They had these things called deck techs, where they actually show out their decks and like shows what card selections and the whole layout of their deck, right, and how it plays out and stuff like that. And through them explaining it, they're explaining how certain instances work for them, and they get to tell their story through the tournament in that sense. I feel like that's a major thing that is missing that I would like to see back, especially when it comes to in-person competitions, because you have the people there. You can actually just snag a quick interview with them during the rounds, and people have something to follow in that sense.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna try to do that. Little interviews at G3. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I think honestly, one thing about it too is that these were all the things that Amazing like thought about as like a company who was like had a professional like interest in like the investment and stuff, right? So they were like allocating like whatever funds. Like for example, like Amazing Lights, like the way they shot their stuff was, I believe, at a warehouse, right, where they like had a studio set up just for their features, and there was like a camera set up there with like, I believe, the camera guy, right? Like he was like responsible for like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there was someone in the community who was like dedicated to doing that stuff and like thinking about that stuff. And the thing about the Amazing era was that it was in LA, high concentration of Glovers, and they had dedicated stores and locations for these things, like there was like a physical hub. The issue with us in our current modern age is that our hub is online spaces, right? So what does that mean? If you want to get stuff like features again, you would either have to have a physical hub somewhere with a high concentration of Glovers that already live there, where like people, like it's so much of like a hub or a mecca that people from out of state will be willing to travel to get their features shot there, right? Or you would need to do the exact opposite, where you would need like a dedicated crew of people like Kuma Films, right, who go around the world documenting and doing like these like showcases for a bunch of people's different hobbies, right? Do something like that, but specifically for gloving. I don't know what's the better solution, but in this current age where we're like a lot more grassroots, someone would have to have the time, dedication, and resources to be willing to do that.
I think there's actually an easier way.
What's up?
You just send people a certain backdrop. Just dedicate a day to record a video in a certain way. Maybe
Have
they
a
even
certain
send
set
you
of guidelines, standards.
maybe even send you a lighting or something like that. Yeah. Or
Mm.
maybe you have to buy it, right? And yeah, you record it and submit it in a box, which I kind of already did in here for a few years, and it did work. And then people just get lazy and stop doing it.
Right, because
Yeah.
I know that for you, I know that for, if anything, Zealzabub, right? Like both of you
And then
like
also,
have active setups already.
what was it called? Pocket gloving is another great example. Weren't you like you were showcasing people and giving them like highlights and like, here, shout out to this glover, here's some videos, let's watch together, check
Right.
it out. You know, that's another great way of
Yeah, definitely.
getting people invested in like giving back. There's another guy called Mr. Fantastic.
Mhm.
He's an old popper. He does that called what's so great about this dancer. And it's like he has a whole series of different people of doing that same thing that someone could easily do. You know, there's many ways to do it, but you just gotta keep them there. But there are the issues though. Like I did it in an on way, which required like none of that work, and people still. But also, I felt like it was easier. I felt like back then you could just put a graphic up, and that made your video look professional because people didn't know how to make graphics.
Right,
True.
You
right.
know, they're like, "Oh, here's an animated intro. This shit's professional." You know.
Yeah, I mean,
that's-
like
Lights on. Literally, that was lights on.
yeah, lights on, which is a graphic and everything looks professional in that sense. But the other thing as well is like I'm still planning on doing the other podcast I do with Vioh. I know just this is around the end of the year to make it really difficult for everybody else to be on. So I know next year we're definitely going to start cracking down on that and getting that out. Do you think we have a couple of people who had to essentially step out because of certain things going on in their life that kind of made it prohibitive for them to do it? But I do have a couple of people lined up in my head to as stand-ins until then. But I feel like starting next year would probably be the best time for that, because I do think it is important to get newer glovers to at least just kind of talk about gloving in the same fashion that we do here on Gloving Tabletops. So that's something I am working on. So I know that will that will definitely be coming out by next year. I'm really excited for that. But I think we're starting to see these shifts within the community. So I think a lot of people who were like freaking out about things going wrong for the community, I actually think we're shifting to position ourselves better to grow rather than to die off.
I agree. I feel like we're in the infrastructure stage at the moment. Like everything's getting kind of established. We're getting kind of new things coming in. And as all of that starts to come in, we finally, between Worldwide Glovers and Gloving Academy, like those two discords alone are going to allow so much scaling as people start to find them and start to venture more. Because I mean, I see Discord in general just kind of starting to get more popular. I mean, even some of the teams I'm on are having their own Discords and things like that. So I think as we continue to build this infrastructure here, it's kind of like that old cliche, but if you build it, they will come kind of a thing. I think we'll really be able to trampoline off of that.
Well, yeah, and I would even say in-person competitions is a testament to that, because you set up the competition, people come to the competition. Even if they're not competing, they're there to watch and enjoy the competition. So I also think that this also poises us into a position that I know Z expressed this as something I've expressed in the past, but having like a version of a gloving convention where it's just we're gathering together to hang out and talk about gloving. It doesn't have to be a competition. There might be competitions there, but that's not the main focus.
Sell all the lights auction live in person at a con. Imagine.
That'd be pretty cool.
So
Who runs Sell All the Lights?
Don't know, but they need to do better.
Yeah, Sell the Lights is for people who don't know are basically what we know as our secondary market. It is literally if there's a place to understand what sells on the secondary market in terms of gloving stuff, that's the place that you go check. And it is a Facebook group. I don't know.
It cracks me up.
Go ahead.
People are like, "Yo, it takes me like months to get into this group," or like, "Man, why is all the sets in there?" I'm like, "Why don't we just make another group? Just make another one, and then make a thing."
So there's a bit of history behind that, especially in the early days of Glover's Lounge. For a lot of the newcomers, if you don't know, it was much more of the Wild West back then. But there have been a couple of people who have launched their own version of Glover's Lounge. There was like Glover's Lounge 2.0, 2.5. That was a thing. And yes, it has become basically a gloving meme within a lot of the older heads of the community. That it's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go make my own Glover's Lounge. It's gonna have blackjacks and hookers. It's like
Literally.
I mean, there is a Facebook group called the Glover's Pit, which is basically like pit battles, but it's not. I think they were just trying to have more of like what the old thought process of pit battles were back then, still there, but yeah, it never. Those very very rarely even took off, and I remember somebody making Glover's United just to be like, I'm tired of GL. I want to do a new place. And a good number of people moved over there, but it's essentially dead quiet. Like, I'm sure if you go on there, the most you're going to see is literally my catalog of content posted for years. Yeah, go ahead, McKinnley.
Podcast to kill Tony.
The name sounds very familiar, yeah.
All right. Essentially, actually, no. I've done this to you many times, Peter. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna do it again. You're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you did." It's a stand-up podcast in Austin.
Oh right, no, I remember now. Okay, yeah. You
Yep.
showed me this, but go ahead.
And yeah, so people sign up to do a minute of stand-up, and there's professional comedians there, and and afterwards you're gonna get interviewed. Based on how you do, you're either gonna get praised or roasted. You're gonna get roasted, I think, a little bit regardless, but you're gonna get really roasted, right? But this could change your life for good or for worse, right? To the extremes. But it's also part of the art form. It's comedy, But another thing too, I feel like people like watching people get humiliated. Unfortunately, this is why I like American Idol. All that stuff all gets popularized.
That's why there's YouTube drama channels.
Where there is great success, there is great failure. That's just how the polarity of things happen. They're just always right next to each other, even though they're way far from each other. But Glover's Lounge, people stay in that thing because of the other things, and those are the things that kind of get like hyped up, right? So they tend to stick around for that stuff. So I wonder how it would go if Gloving did something like that as a podcast and was just bold.
Only if Dylan and Dustin host it.
Like, yeah, dude, you need to clean the fungus in between your fingers. That show was funky.
We need Troll Squad hosting it or something too.
Dude, yeah, they could do it.
Yeah, I definitely think Troll Squad should do that. That'd be interesting.
Manifest.
I don't know if anyone
Scott,
will be.
Scott, if you're watching.
Yeah, no, honestly, I might hit them up and see if anyone's interested. I just don't know if anyone has the time, but as an idea, I feel like a lot of those guys would love it.
It could even be a live thing like this, and people just
We'll
hop in, and then they do a minute interview, and then, all right, you get disconnected from the call, depending on how the interview goes. Like, oh no, good. In the show, oftentimes they'll try to like fist bump. If they're like terrible, no, you get off the stage. No fist bump. Nope.
Be gone.
All that kind of. Another thing too is as a nice incentive, if you do okay, he has like joke books, a small like they're blank for people to write their jokes in, and kind of like reinforce, hey, keep doing the thing. So all right, what if you come on You do decent. All right, here's a pair of whites, or here's some batteries, something like that. If you do really good, they also offer like they have regular spots where someone comes back every week and does a minute, right? They kind of earned it, or they'll get asked to come on an actual show, or they get paid or whatever. Just kind of like that kind of mindset.
Right, all little positive reinforcements.
How can you make value to all of this, and it all goes round and round, but also entertains the people. People like to see the fire.
I think we need a wager match type setup.
Kind of like FanDuel.
Hey man,
Gloving
US is gonna be
FanDuel.
like, "Where's my cut, G? Where's my cut?"
Something.
Right, literally.
Can't gamble over gloving.
House always wins, right?
I think that's another big thing that might be something that we have to discuss about. It's just like the incentive, what kind of incentives you can give people who want to participate with stuff like that. Because I know Folly was tinkering around with the idea of like high stakes competition for gloving, like $1,000 as the grand prize type deal. And I know a lot of people showed interest in that. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, higher stakes, the more people are going to get interested.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I think we have a lot of things going on. But is there anything else you guys are excited to see for next year? What you want to see happen next year?
So I saw a couple happen this year, and I really hope to see more happen, but workshops. Like I would love to see some of these older heads, the people that are like have been in the game for a long time, just holding a little workshop. It doesn't have to be anything fancy either. Just if it's sitting in a call and just taking questions or just explaining something. One thing, kind of a easy way to kind of do this is something I saw Kevin doing Puppet. He does kind of themed labs. So he'll like the last one we did, he did a liquid based lab where all we did is sit down and talk about liquid. And he just did another one, I think, yesterday for pinching. And so I think having workshops, maybe a little more directed labs or something along those lines, I think would be well received. And I hope to see more of that coming around.
Also, speaking of Puppet's Discord, I think he literally incentivizes people to host their own workshops anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like you can get like tickets and stuff. So if you got a cool idea for a workshop, you should definitely hit him up.
Yes.
Free
And
ticket.
even then, we did that before, but at least he has a ticket system. But I know
Right.
Peter and 30K used to do like a monthly thing.
Right.
Where
Concept
they
of the
would
month.
Right.
The concept of the month.
Yep.
There's also another way to get back. Yeah, so I guess just getting more people to engage with it is also key.
Yes, we need
Sometimes
more
people
to
stop
engage.
doing it because they aren't engaging. You don't know.
Right.
It's
That was,
happening,
I think, right. I think that was one of Dustin's big things, right? He was like, not enough people were like interested or showing up, so it's like, why am I putting all this effort into it? But it's kind of like people are always asking for these things too, so it's like if you show interest, people will be interested to keep doing them, you know. All we ask is like a little bit of give, which on people's end is really sometimes just showing up.
Another way to look at it too, that like the whole go back to the con thing, still on this topic.
Mhm.
When you make something like that, you never really get to enjoy it because you're too busy working it.
Right.
But it's also like just like any relationship of any sort, what problems are you willing to deal with on a daily basis that you like dealing with or like tolerating, right? So it's also a sacrifice in trying to find that harmony and finding your place and what you're willing to do too, you know, because it's a lot to do all that. I'm just happy I'm grateful that I just have opportunities like in May. I'm gonna actually go teach a workshop for a festival again. That's gonna be cool. But I'm getting the opportunity. I'm not like I'm running the event and I'm doing this too. No, I just get asked, you know, and I'm taking the opportunity and running with it.
Hell yeah.
But hopefully people engage. But even if they don't, my plan is to just be there.
Right.
Like I'll be honest, my first festival I've done that for Prometheus. First day, a lot of people showed up. Awesome. Day 2, had like 2 people. but that was because at the same time that my workshop was happening, 3 fire breathing workshops were happening. You can
Oh,
only learn
man.
that. It's very specialized.
Yeah.
Like basically, if you weren't trying to learn fire, you went to me. But we were at a fire festival. Everyone was trying to learn how to do that thing,
Right.
and it was from someone who was really, really good, and I highly praise. So I
Right,
do not
right.
knock. And I was watching from afar, but I was like, damn, I want to learn. I can't even. I gotta teach, but I kind of want to teach, but I can't leave my post.
You guys want to go watch that real quick?
Right? Yeah. I was like, yo, all right. Here's the thing. Let's go over there. But
Just all right. Let's go.
but do it anyways.
Yes, do it.
We have a saying here in the server I've used for a long time: where there are lights, moths will come. Just like how if you build it, people will come. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean there are just certain subject matters out there within gloving that just draw more attention than others. Like I can certainly say consistently, anytime I hosted anything about morphing or platforming, a lot of people showed up because those were two very different things that people were very interested in understanding. Especially morphing. Like that's the one I feel like I've really figured out how to explain it and be able to teach it. It is just a lot of people come to learn like, oh, this is just going to take me a good while to get everything to understand. I know for me, I have on the docket, like I have a quintessential lesson video that I have in the works. I just need to start collecting the footage now. I have the script done. That one's gonna be really, really fun. I have a kind of like, I don't want to say addendum, but like a further deeper dive into like the characteristics of morphing, to really try to explain what I'm talking about when it comes to like the amoeba construct, the pendulum effect, and things of that nature, so that people can really understand what it is that makes this work and how this applies to gloving. I know, like, I just have a good amount of stuff that I have in the docket and I feel like I'm starting to really shift towards really teaching newer glovers what these things are in a better formatting. Because after I posted my impacting video, like, a lot of people were into it, and I saw a lot more engagement with like the Impact Asylum and people wanting to learn. So
I'm excited for you, dude. Good to have
Same.
you back.
Yes.
lot of exciting stuff. But yeah, I don't know. There's just, I feel like a lot of people are shifting gears here, and I think a lot of people are just like, all right, you know what, I can put stuff aside and actually kind of like commit to working with other people on stuff.
Those are some nice lights you got there.
Are we seeing a little preview?
Is that a tease?
Yeah.
Are you teasing us?
They look so short. Like, do they hit your first knuckle? Oh, they're leading off the tip a little bit. Okay, I see.
I mean, that's still like
Beautiful.
right there.
Yeah.
Still like right at that first knuckle.
I like the width too. Makes them look like little chunky marshmallows.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So here's
Technology.
here's something I could probably actually point out. How do you guys feel like with so many of the advancements with technology? How many do you think a lot of other companies are going to actually be kind of like pushed out of the market, or do you think that there's still a very, very strong market for the legacy chips? Is that what we refer to them now?
I mean, I think that certain advancements are gonna hopefully become streamlined, like batteries and stuff. But actually, one thing I've heard recently is that there is an interest in like kind of like much more simpler programmables, right? Someone mentioned like, I just need something like the Trinities, honestly, with maybe some more like mode options. And I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, we had two pretty high profile glove sets this year that are doing a lot to push certain boundaries, right? But I think there's also still like a market for people who don't need all that or even want all that.
Oh, 1000%. Absolutely.
And I really kind of want to see, I think Stone Orbits and LED gloves are really going to be pushing that kind of like premium front. But I kind of want to see more people like still try to fill in that mid-tier or like entry-level market. I think we're really missing in that regard right now.
I think we may have something kind of showing up at the beginning of the year. I'll know a little more in the next couple of months.
Yeah, well, we
I
know
think
that
we got some
there's one company who has been teasing the idea of coming out with the chip. You know, so they already make a lot of casings, they make a lot of diffusers, they make a lot of third-party products for gloving. It would not surprise me that they would also come out with the chip, considering that everything else that they've been doing has been fueling up to that point. So I just see that as a natural progression.
What I think would be cool,
Hmm.
you know, I think this would unite gloving to the world too. What if we found like a way, I don't know, we have all these batteries that we use. Why don't we have a waste container? Why don't we sell some kind of container or something to give to, and educate people on what to do with batteries? All that kind of shit, right?
True.
I feel like that would like promote itself in a really positive light and show that we're educated, and like that would totally just get spread around. And the people who don't even glove, they're like, yo, dude, just buy this container. It's really cheap. It's really easy. Whatever. You just need to work and look at that kind of thing. But
So what was that in your hands over there?
Oh, this is a battery tray. This is something we already sell. Use code StarStream.
Quick plug.
But
Sh-
yeah, it's a
shameless
battery
plug.
tray. So any spare batteries I have, I keep them in here.
Oh, that's
What the
so
heck?
thing
I've
is a
never seen
bit-
that before. What the heck is that?
I'm about to
Our
get some
CR
down.
2016s, they're too big, but 1616, 1620s, 1225s, they all fit. So like
Wait, is it-
whenever I'm like opening my batteries, I'm just if I have spares, I put them in here.
What the heck? How have I never seen that before?
I don't know. I've done like one little ad thing. Maybe I'll start doing more.
You should, because like, what the heck?
Yeah,
That's
it's
sick.
clutch.
I'll certainly say this: if there's one thing for sure from the companies I want to see is I want to see you guys marketing get better. Like, you guys got great products, you guys got a lot of things going. We just need to see you push those advertisements. I mean, I've seen Therlights' ads show up on YouTube. I've seen
If I was in control, I'd
Glow
be on it.
FX.
But I also would like to get paid for it because I know what the work that it takes. Even if it's just like a base pay, like
Right.
something real, something.
Salary pay is
Don't
pretty
need a
easy
lot.
to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, just I need something. But dude, you'd be shocked if you just pay a little bit on Instagram or Facebook. What that would do. For some reason, people just don't do that, or they don't want to like consistently post. Just this is a whole bunch of like time things.
Consistency is the
about-
hardest thing.
That is
For
the
me.
main thing, is the consistency. It's tough to find, but if you're aware of that, you're ahead. You're more ahead than most.
Yeah, no, I definitely know how that goes. That's why I pretty much, I will say this though, like the holiday season, I usually just take off because it's like it's always crazy. It's hard to get people together when they have a bunch of other stuff going on at the same time. So, that's why I was like, I at least want to get one recording session in before the holidays are out. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I think we pretty much covered a lot of different things. You know.
This was sick. I love this.
There was a lot of things that happened this year. There was a lot of products that came out. We got in-person competitions really actually gearing up. I'm hoping to see like the Colorado scene really blow back up again, really get back and revive itself. I would like to actually see more stuff out of the other communities that we know exist, but we just don't really see this same amount of attention to them that I would like to see. Like, I know Seattle has a really strong community out there. I know a lot of the different Texas communities have a lot of stuff out there. It's just I would like to see more in-person boss comps, since it's much easier to do that as a regional thing.
True. Need more leaders.
Yeah, boss is ran by amazing, so it's gonna be the new term.
Also,
Oh,
I
that's
feel like
true.
the term is slightly outdated because it stands for Battle of Supreme Swag, and it makes me feel.
Back
It
to
makes me feel
2010.
fancy.
We'll start the
Right.
manager comps.
I didn't even know that. I always wondered what that meant. If that just meant they were a boss, but boss, that's what boss meant. That's
Feeling
Cringe.
It's of
swaggy.
it's of its time.
I think it should be called something like a series, if that makes any sense. Like there's like YCS, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series. You know, so it's like
Okay,
more of a
okay.
regional thing, like have a regional competition name. You know, gloving
like we should
regional
just have,
comp.
like, seasonal competitions.
Yeah.
Like this big competition is this season. This big competition is this season. So you just know which competitions are which season.
Right.
Which, if
Mini-
anybody like is
mini, like,
interested, I was gonna say that if anybody's interested in running a comp in person, you just need help with logistics, just knowing like what to do. Just reach out to somebody in the community. I guarantee we can get you in touch with somebody to help get you a format. Because in person with your local communities was going to be a big plus, just to be around that constantly. And so if you just need help with ideas or putting anything together, just don't be afraid to reach out to the community. We're all here to help each other in one way or another.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. Is there anything you guys want to touch on, or?
Oh, sir.
All right. I definitely will say as soon as G3 Battlegrounds is over, we'll definitely come back, bring this back together, so we can actually do the before and after effect, essentially, or both LGC and G3 Battlegrounds, which I'm really, really excited about. I do hope somebody do a doubles competition. I just want one, even if it's just like four couples, 4 pairs. It's enough. I just want to see it.
I want to see the visual.
Exactly.
That'd be so much fun.
Well, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed what we had to say in this episode. There's a lot of things going on at the end of the year, and we're hoping that next year is going to be another good one for us. Of course, you guys all should know the socials are down in the description below. Please follow everybody on there. We got a lot of things down in the pipeline that are going to come out next year that I'm really excited to see. Do not hesitate to join the Discords, not only just McKinnley's, but also go over to Globin Academy, because we have that. It is fantastic. I've actually been seeing a lot of activity in both servers at the same time, so people are kind of like bouncing between one and the other, hanging out with people, so that's always good. Other than that, I certainly hope to see you guys all next year. Bye.
Bye.